Yeah, I think it's an accurate statement to say Lavon is the strongest arm wrestler that has ever lived. Yeah.
So speaking of hurdles, what hurdles have you had to face, overcome in the last 6 months preparing for Lavon, if any?
Anybody who's in the sport, given this kind of opportunity, you know, it's a chance to go all in. And I knew that if I didn't, I would regret it.
Out of control. Timeline.
Adjust myself, actually. Yeah, 4 hours of deadlift and 300 pounds of Devon.
Almost.
Really? Okay.
I'm.
Depends on the breakfast.
I think I'm probably like right now, like with clothes, just as I am right now, probably 290.
290. Okay.
Probably I'm really close to where I pulled Michael. It's like basically the same. Like if you catch me tonight, I'll probably be 292.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's massive.
It's big.
Because you're lean. Yeah, that belly isn't, but the rest of you is.
Yeah, no, but I'm definitely leaner. Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Leaner than, yeah, you know your face is leaner.
Definitely leaner.
You were a bloat lord with Michael.
Yeah.
You were the bloat lord.
Yeah,
like maybe the beard is helping slim your face a bit, but.
Yeah. No, I definitely, I mean, that was the biggest I'd been, and I kind of stabilized at that weight over the course of the year.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. We are here at this space. So for those who don't know, this is an exclusive once a month only car showroom, amongst other things you can find here, other activities, things you can only find here. This is also where King of the Table 4 on Saturday will be hosted. And I'm here with the man himself, Devon Larratt. The man ready to make history in just a few days.
Oh man, it's gonna be crazy.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I mean, I joined arm wrestling at like the best time.
Yeah.
I joined like a year in, just enough to really love and appreciate the sport and know like how difficult it is to level up. So now I can really appreciate the level you and Lavon are at. And I understand how difficult it must have been to get to where you are today, how much time and patience that took. So as you guys guessed it, of course I'm going to be interviewing Devon on how he's feeling, what has changed this training cycle versus any other training cycle he's ever done in the past. Because let's face it, you know, aside from maybe Dennis, I don't think you ever faced a Titan like Lavon before.
Agreed.
You know.
I believe that Lavon represents the highest peak in strength that we've ever seen in the sport.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, I think it's an accurate statement to say Lavon is the strongest arm wrestler that has ever lived.
He never fails to impress, and as wild as it is, I think he still has some room to grow.
It's crazy, right?
I mean, he's still in his
He's 30,
prime.
yeah, he's 33, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why would he stop growing now unless he gets hurt or sick? So
No,
he stays healthy.
yeah. Yep.
It's just going to keep on going up.
Yep.
Which is insane to think about.
It's pretty crazy.
But how cool is it that, you know, you're still young enough, still in your prime, still able to be at a point in your life where you can condition yourself and prepare to face someone like Lavon. I mean, you're 47 now. Mm-hmm. And that's what I love about the sport too, is that like there's really, what is the shelf life? What is too old?
So an example that I always like to talk about, we got a guy just down the road from me, a guy called Crazy George. You know this guy?
I've heard of him.
Okay,
yeah, I
so
don't know enough about him.
he's very famous as a Canadian especially, but I mean, he won the Arnolds like 10 years in a row. He is now, I think he's 72 or 73. Okay, now at 68, so 5 years ago, I would have very confidently said he was the #1 guy on the planet at 176, which is the most competitive weight class that there is. So that's crazy. So 68 years old, best in the world in the most competitive weight class. At 72, he just won the overalls at our provincials, beat Pork Chop. It's crazy. Like, and he doesn't care, man. He's fucking, yeah. 72 years old, still crushing it.
that's bittersweet. Like you face Crazy George and you lose. It's like, wow, that's incredible. But also like, damn, he's 72 and I lost.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like you're on both sides of the fence.
But
that
it's
happens.
super inspiring, you know, to know that the longevity that arm wrestling provides. Like you can, so long as you love it, you can just keep going and going and progressing, you know, overcoming the hurdles. Yeah, there's no reason why you can't be a world champ at 70, right? And that's now.
Yeah, right, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I love so much about the sport. Like there is really no shelf life. And even John Brzezinski come back out of retirement.
Exactly.
You know, is a good example of that.
Yep.
So speaking of hurdles, what hurdles have you had to face, overcome in the last 6 months preparing for Lavon, if any?
6 months. The last 6 months for me, it's been quite smooth actually. Yeah.
That's what I want to hear.
I did a very good job, I think, of, for the most part, I mean, I don't want to ever say that I'm perfect, but I think that this is a massive opportunity for me to face Lavon, to have a shot at the #1 spot in the world. Anybody who's in the sport, given this kind of opportunity, you know, it's a chance to go all in. And I knew that if I didn't, I would regret it. So for 6 months, you know, I've cleared everything. This is probably the best training block I've ever done in terms of, normally I get an injury and I just keep on working through it. You know,
Okay.
It's okay, but I'm dealing with an injury. I never got hurt. I never got an injury. It was just up, 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 up the whole time. Perfect. Everything was perfect. Yeah.
To take a, as of late, I myself had conquered a huge milestone. I haven't made any real progress in my deadlift in the last couple of years, and I hit 422 for 3. And what has changed, what got me to that PR, was volume.
Yeah.
Building a really strong foundation. I mean, for 2-3 months, I was doing 9 sets of 8, 9 sets of 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So much volume, so many variations of the deadlift, becoming very specific on this movement. And I never did volume like this before.
Yeah.
You know, I've been lucky with my genetics and, of course, drug protocol to get by with less than I may have needed to get by with. And it blew my mind, you know, like how little drugs I needed and food. I was eating 3 meals a day, 800 calories a meal at the most, you know, just not even eating till I'm full, just eating till I'm satisfied.
Yeah.
And I was able to pull out a massive, huge deadlift PR.
Yeah.
You know, after a big layoff from heavy deadlifts. You know, I haven't pulled heavy in over 2 years.
Yeah.
And it was all because of the volume, 100%. That's the only thing that really made a big impact. Nothing else changed. And everything else was dialed back. Food was dialed back. Drugs were dialed back. It was just the training that was so on point.
Yeah.
And most importantly, you hit the nail on the head, it was being injury-free throughout the whole
Yeah.
prep. So this leads me to my next question is, how has your training changed, if it's changed, training for Lavon? You know,
Yeah.
let's compare it to when you trained for Michael Todd.
Yeah. So the reason why I love the sport, I love to compete, I really love table time. You know, that's probably my favorite thing about the sport, is just getting on the table, practicing with other people. I find it very motivating, easy, enjoyable. It's normally what my entire training blocks revolve around. Like I pick my table training days and I build everything around those days. And that's been the case for most of my career. So for Michael, it was like 3 or 4 table practices a week.
Wow.
And what I do, so that's basically every other day,
Okay.
right?
Wow.
And the days that I had table training, I would not train in the gym. And, you know, I've been doing this pumping and training, so I'm only training right arm in the gym. I still arm wrestle both hands, but I'll only do like what I call homework with my right hand.
Okay.
So on off days, I would do rehab. Okay, and rehab for me was pretty much high rep, perfect form, all the arm wrestling motions, just to pump fluids, to just make sure my tendons would be able to handle the table sessions.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was basically what I did for Michael. And then the taper for Michael was an early cut of the table practice, a slight ramp in strength before like the full volume, reduction to your end product. This time is longer, right? I had 6 months at least. Basically since John, I've been focusing on this day. I started to get strong. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I became stronger during this period noticeably, so that normally when I go to a table practice, I'll line up the team and I'll, hold everybody, and by the end of it, I'm not injured, but I'm definitely broke down.
Okay.
And I wasn't really getting that so much anymore. I was like, I'm making it through these practices and, I don't think it's enough. So what happened was my rehab days started to become very progressive.
Progressive in which sense?
In weight.
Okay.
Okay. So normally what I was doing with and I knew that, to be able to deal with Lavon, I was going to need strength. Any way you cut it, like people talk about Lavon, they're like, well, Devon has endurance, Lavon has strength. Well, the only way endurance is going to matter is if the strength is even close. Right. So I knew I needed to get stronger any way you cut it. So my rehab sessions just started to get heavier and heavier and heavier, until like I typically do, now you're talking about volume, I'll typically do 3 arm wrestling workouts a day.
Wow.
All right hand, very similar movements, nothing really to failure, but they're demanding.
How long would each session take throughout the day?
Well, I do 2 different types, okay? So, and I base it off how I feel.
Okay.
If I feel like I can, it's what I'll call a heavy circuit, okay? So I'll pick, basically I have a lot of different circuits, but I pared them down till I was only running 2 circuits. Okay, so for the past probably 4 months, I've been running 2 circuits. The one consists of 4 exercises, the other consists of 6. And they're all just arm wrestling motions. That's it. And 6 rounds, right? Because that's what we're training for, right? 6 rounds.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Interesting.
but the rest time, so the rest time in between, so it's like superset, right? You go from one to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next.
Right. No rest in between.
No rest.
Except in between rounds.
Exactly. And that rest in between rounds started to get very long. Yeah.
Okay.
Because the workouts started to get really heavy. And at the end of the 4 exercises or 6, I'd be really gassed. And I would need sometimes 10 or 15 minutes. Yeah. Just so I could do the next one. I wouldn't be able to do it if it was any more. So very, very heavy circuits. And if I didn't feel that I could do that, then it would be more of a just same type, so the same circuits, but at a way lower weight, just more conditioning, just kind of running through them according to the time structure of the league, minute and a half rest between, so it's more of just an anti-pump, But yeah, so it's a lot of volume. Yeah.
Yeah, volume is king.
Yeah, especially for arm wrestling.
Okay.
Because it's all tendons, all ligaments, small muscles, recovers fast. If you're doing good form, you shouldn't get sore. Hard to get sore. Hard where you're geez, my forearms are really sore. Normally you get tendonitis.
Right. Fair enough.
Yeah.
But then how do you deal with the recovery after table practice? So how do you adjust the intensity with the guys at practice?
Right.
Are you letting them rip on you, or is it more slow and controlled, deliberate?
I always encourage slow and controlled.
Okay.
You know, safety is a huge thing in training, especially when you're doing it against another person. Super important. If you want to train faster with somebody, it's fine, just so long as there's communication. But you know, typically for me, I'll train in a strap all the time. What happens if you don't train in a strap, and if you're the stronger person, you're going to run into technical issues. Like if you're training arm wrestling, and like there's a stronger guy and there's a junior guy, you know, senior and junior, and typical protocol for good practice is senior holds, junior works. That way nobody gets hurt, right? Because you can't be hurting your training partners, and everybody gets a good workout. But the problem is if you don't have a strap, you're hooking and you're holding on, and it's all terrible practice. It's terrible technique. But if you just put a strap on, you can keep on doing like proper technique, you know, while the person is kind of leading the dance. Mm-hmm. So yeah, lots of strap, lots of, really, I mean, for me, table practice is just fun.
Okay.
And it's about comfort, but I'm in a lucky place because I'm strong enough that that's what it is.
Fair
you know,
enough.
I've been doing it long enough. If the table practices are hurting you, like if you're done a table practice and you're like, oh man, I'm like, so you have to go light. You cannot, I mean, I hate to say cannot because then people are like, well, I can't do it, you know, and maybe they can.
There's always the exception.
There's exceptions to everything, but I think for the most part, if you go to a place where you're hurting your tendons and ligaments, you got to train light. You got to push fluids, and that's how you heal your tendons. Yeah, so you can get back on the table and do it again. But if you get so you can push past a practice and not get hurt, like if you're the strongest guy in practice, then the gym has got to compensate. Yeah, because you can never stop getting stronger.
That's what arm wrestling is today. There's some really freaky strong guys at the top.
Arm wrestling is strength, you know, it's combative strength. Yeah, for sure, strength. If there's one thing that you always want more of, it's strength. Yeah, for sure.
And that's a big message that if you're at the end of your practice and you're in pain,
oh yeah,
you went too intense.
I think so. Like, I mean, every time I go to practice and I see like people pulling, for the most part, I'm like, oh guys, you're doing it wrong. In my opinion, and this is from a guy who's been arm wrestling a long time and really loves the sport, there should be very little pinning in practice. Very little, especially when guys are trying hard. Like I understand, like if you're holding someone and kind of letting them work through the process and everything's safe and controlled, but there should be very little pinning, because what pinning is you're breaking somebody's form, okay? Like I'm very safe in the middle of the table, my wrist a little bit bent, I have all my angles, I can use all my stuff, everything's activated. As soon as you start to turn me over, and guess what that is? That's terrible form. Terrible form. You're now practicing the sport in terrible form, which just means your likelihood of injury is gonna go way up. You know, it's fun, like I get it, like you know, it's just, if you actually wanna get stronger, don't get pinned. Don't get pinned. And talk to each other. Be like, listen, man, if you feel like you can pin me, just settle down. Like, it's just a practice. Like, senior holds. This is a great concept for all arm wrestlers to figure out. Like, if you are at a table practice and you can pin the guy, you don't pin him. You hold them. Yeah, you'll get more out of it. And if you want to be done, then just be done. Like, if you don't want to do it for like 30 seconds or 40, if you want to just do it for 15 seconds, hold the guy for 15 seconds. But when you start to pin your practice partners, you're going to hurt them. And then you got one less piece of equipment.
And that goes both ways. If they're pinning you, you get
Yeah,
turned palm up, all
exactly.
bicep.
No. People shouldn't be pinning too much in practice. Very, very rarely. Listen, when you're warmed up and you're good and you've been doing it a few years and you know you're looking for that experience, yeah, okay, go for it. Yeah, but that's like 5%. Like 80% of your time in practice should be hanging out in the middle of the table. You know, both safe, like ramping up the pressure. So, oh, I got you there. You know, give it back. You know.
In the center, playing with
Center.
the center.
The match is won and lost in the center of the table. It's all like if you can control the center, you control the whole thing. You don't need to carry through for the win. And that's how, I mean, and the more time you can safely spend on the table, the more it adds up, right? Volume. Talk about volume on the practice table. You know, you do a lot of time on the practice table, and it'll help build that foundation. You know, you're comfortable, you're happy, you're healthy, you're strong. Yeah.
Playing with the center, even with the strap on. Well,
Strap.
you only train with a strap, of course. Yeah.
Always. I would say, look, people accuse me of having a bias about the strap. That might be true. But the truth is when you look at a lot of the pro leagues, a lot of them have a lot of access to the strap. And even if the league does not have an auto strap, there's a high likelihood that one of the two of you is going to want it to go there. A lot of matches go to the strap. You might as well get good at it. And the truth is technically you will not limit yourself by pulling in a strap. You should pull in a strap the same way you do outside of a strap. It's going to result in a slip.
Right.
Yeah, as soon as people are like holding on to each other, it's very artificial. Yeah, it's in my opinion, like it's every time I see people practicing without a strap, I'm like, somebody's making a mistake. Somebody's doing it wrong. I know, and a lot of arm wrestling purists out there are going to be like, Devon Larratt, he's the devil. He's terrible for the sport of arm wrestling. Arm wrestling is not about, well, I love the sport of arm wrestling. I look at it very closely, and I'll strongly disagree. But
yeah, and you're a great ambassador for the sport. You're the face of arm wrestling. People think arm wrestling, Devon Larratt.
Man, where have we gotten to?
We're working on your ego right now. You need it for this match Saturday.
I do need it. I do. Well, Jody,
look how wide you are right now.
Yeah. Oh my, you're so good to me, Larry. Oh man.
So you know, there's a lot of back and forth the last 6 months with you
Yeah.
and Lavon. And how real is that? How do you really feel about Lavon? You know, he's a big teddy bear. You know, but how do you really feel about him?
I love Lavon. I mean, he's a champion. But I'm not here to be his friend right now. I mean, both of us take this super seriously. I actually really enjoy the process of not having to be somebody's friend, you know? Like, it's cool. Like, you know, like if I've got many of my very best friends in the sport, we've had great blocks of times when we've been mortal enemies. But what happens is you get like a very deep relationship as a result of it. You're not just friends all the time. We've been friends, we've been enemies, we've been combatants. It's a deeper relationship. So right now, Lavon and I, well, he wants to kill me. And I'm doing things to make him want to kill me. So yeah, I expect us to fight. Yeah, it's going to be great. I don't think that there's going to be anything but victory on either one of our minds on Saturday and leading up to that. And what happens afterwards, I mean, we'll probably chill out and absorb the experience and whatever. Look, Lavon's a great guy. The sport's filled with great people.
That's for sure. The brotherhood.
I also know that if it's fun to fight people, you know, it's fun. Yeah.
Well, you stepped up to the biggest challenge in arm wrestling.
Yeah, man.
This is the biggest challenge you'll ever face.
Right?
And, you know, if it wasn't for Vitaly getting that brief stop of Lavon in their super match, I would be convinced that there's no one that's going to pin Lavon, not even a single round. But that stop, as brief as it was a stop. You know, he stopped the train, and maybe he didn't get a round, but that just shows that he is stoppable. He's not unstoppable. And you will be the one to break his streak. How many years now without a single pin?
He switched to pro in 2017, I think.
Yeah, it's like 5
Yeah.
years.
Has anyone done that? Was Zank ever on a streak like that without a single pin?
So. I would imagine that there's been people. The thing is, Brzezinski was very active, so it's a little bit apples and oranges.
Fair enough.
But you know what Lavon really represents is like everybody who really loves arm wrestling and looks at arm wrestling really close. The evidence is there that I think that most people will say, yeah, that's the strongest guy we've ever had. Like when you look at the lifts that are directly transferable to the table, he's like levels above even the super elite field. Like,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's really impressive, but it's not just about that. You know, it's a full fight. Arm wrestling is a strength sport. It's a combat sport, and you can bring other elements into the game, and that's gonna be my job. You know, to somehow chip away at that dude. I am the iceberg. Okay.
Okay.
He is the Titanic. Right? Yeah.
I love that analogy. That's
Yeah,
a
I like
great
it
one.
too. I like it. Yeah, he's like, whatever, this puny iceberg, I will cut. And then,
And then the ship sinks. Oh, I'm getting fired up right now. We're talking about
it's
it.
gonna be good. Yeah.
Well, that concludes our discussion.
Hey, good to see you again, Larry.
Always a
Yeah,
pleasure.
Yeah.
Okay. Arm wrestling, the limp handshakes, right?
Right? I appreciate that. You know, that's how you know a guy knows arm wrestling, because he's not crushing you. He's like, okay, all right, good. It's just a handshake.
Every percent matters. Like,
Yeah.
or even eating with that hand right now.
I don't. For most people, Larry, I wouldn't shake their right hand right now. You're special.
feel honored.
You're
Thank
a special
you,
guy. Yeah.
I was expecting the left, to be fair.
Yeah.
I was expecting the left.
Yeah.
So you guys know where to find the match. Core Sports pay-per-view link down below. Look, these guys are going to make history. Biggest match ever. We are all on our toes. We cannot wait. Here at the space on Saturday, and for the times, for the time zones, it's down below. All the information you need. And Devon, wish you best of luck. I'll be there, of course.
Thanks, buddy.
Of course. And I'll see you Saturday.
Awesome. Can't wait.
Or maybe some food before then. I don't know what you're eating these days.
Oh,
Everything
my God.
inside, I bet.
Everything.
Seafood
Yeah.
diet.
Yeah.
All right. So that's a wrap, guys.